So who remembers the TV show Too Close for Comfort? It was on the air from 1980 to 1987, and it starred Ted Knight as Henry Rush, a cartoonist who lived in San Francisco, California with his wife Muriel and his two daughters, and their friend Monroe would always come over and bug the heck out of Ted Knight. Monroe was of course played by Jim J. Bullock, and Jim J. Bullock and Ted Knight were awesome together. It was such a good show, and it had one of the best theme songs of the 1980s. Now, I've said this a ton of times, it's really hard to do filming locations for sitcoms because 99% of the time they're filmed in sound stages. But today, I'd like to show you every filming location for the opening and closing credits for all 6 seasons of Too Close for Comfort. But in order to do that, we've got to take a little trip, about a 6-hour trip to San Francisco, California. So, let's go see what we can find. So this is the very first shot of the opening credits for the first 5 seasons. And of course, there's lots of places in San Francisco where you can go to get a shot of the Golden Gate Bridge. But to get this exact shot, you have to go to the Lone Sailor Vista Point. And you'll notice that the view of the mountains matches up perfectly. Now the second shot of the opening credits is looking across the water, zooming into the city with that pointy building right in the center. I should probably figure out what that pointy building is called, but this is taken from the same spot, the Lone Sailor Vista Point. There's a quick shot of the trolley heading up California Street, and you can see these buildings right here. Hey, here's the trolley. And there's one more quick shot of the trolley heading down California Street, passing by these buildings, and this is just about 2 blocks away from the first spot. So that brings us to the Rush household. Now, this one is kind of hard to get the exact shots. It starts with a close-up of the city that's off in the distance. It's super zoomed in to the city. It then pans over to the right and you can see that tall building. It goes past all of these houses and then it finally ends up right here. This is the Rush household. It's impossible to get that same shot though, because if you look around, it's all trees now. I think the camera was actually up here, standing up on this sidewalk that's raised. But if you did that, it would be even harder because this is all trees. It's basically like a forest. So kind of doing the best that we can. Now this right here is the shot that you get when the title of the show appears on the screen. Now, as you can probably see, a lot of stuff has changed here. The house for the most part is still the same. Probably the most obvious change is the house is no longer red. Now, I do kind of wish that it was still red. That would have, would have brought us into the vibe of the show if the house was still red, but I'm glad that the structure has not changed. Probably the other most notable change is all of these trees that are now blocking the house. And then also you might notice it's kind of hard to see the house on the right side because of the tree, but if you look at the show, the house on the left and the house on the right side, they both have chimneys, and the chimneys are now missing off of both of those houses. But other than that, this is it. This is the home of Henry Rush. I can hear the theme song in my head right now. Gosh, I love that theme song. Now the last shot of the opening credits for season 1 starts with this rock. The camera then tilts up and pans to the right, and we get a shot of the Golden Gate Bridge. And this is taken at the same spot as the very first shot of the opening credits. It's taken from the Lone Sailor Vista Point. And for the closing credits, it's a lot of the same locations, but shot a little different. We get another shot looking across the water, this time panning across the city. We're then back in the neighborhood of the Rush household, zoomed into the city, and then panning across all of these houses until they finally get to the Rush household. But this time, the camera zooms in on the front door. Now throughout the series, not too much changed during the opening credits, except for the stuff showing the actors. As you can see, that was always changing. And in season 6, everything changed. But for the most part, the first 5 seasons remain the same. However, in season 4, we get the addition of a new scene. Now later in the series, the Rush family has a new baby, so during the opening credits of season 4, they add a shot of Henry and Muriel walking in front of their house, pushing a stroller. Also in season 4, we see the addition of Audrey Meadows as Muriel's mom. Now for some reason in season 5, they replaced the scene of them walking with the baby. They also changed the shot of Henry falling backwards off the couch. Speaking of Muriel having a baby, when she goes into labor in season 3, there's a shot of her and Monroe walking out to Monroe's motorcycle so he can take her to the hospital. And they actually came all the way back to San Francisco to film that scene. There's even shots of them pulling away from the house and riding off down the street, and shots of them riding down California Street. So Monroe finally gets her to the hospital, and the hospital that he takes her to is CPMC Davies campus in San Francisco. And as you can see, the building is now pretty consumed by trees, but you can still kind of make out the building. And that's the very same uphill driveway that Monroe pulls his motorcycle into. Now for season 6, that's when everything changes, because Henry and Muriel move away all the way to Mill Valley, which is a whopping 14 miles away. Now the opening credits for season 6 are filmed in Mill Valley and Sausalito, California, which is right next door to Mill Valley. The first shot that we get is another shot of the Golden Gate Bridge, this time taken from across the water. This is very similar to the shot, and I swear to you, the Golden Gate Bridge is there, but right now it's completely consumed by fog. But if you look at the mountains around the bridge, they're exactly the same as what you see in that opening shot. The next shot is another shot taken from across the water, zooming into the Hotel Sausalito. That's that building right there with the unique roof line. Now my shot is taken from a little bit higher up than the one that you see in the show, but there's the Hotel Sausalito. You probably saw that seagull just fly by. I had to get the heck out of there as quick as possible. The seagulls were attacking my drone like crazy. But again, there's the Hotel Sausalito, looking very similar to how it does in the show. And you get another shot of the Hotel Sausalito during the end credits, this time taken from across the street. Now, of course, they needed a shot to show you where they were moving to, and they were moving to Mill Valley. And this is where that shot was taken. Now, you can probably tell that this is not the exact same sign that we see in the show. I think it might also not be in the exact same place. I think it was a little bit further down that way, but this is definitely the same area where that shot was taken, because you can still match up that mountain right there. Right down there, you'll see the sign for the crosswalk. You've got the median with the break in it, and also that tall tree. We also get a quick shot looking at this building on the corner, which is the depot. The camera then pans over to the left. We get a shot looking down this street, and then these buildings right over here. And here you have it, the second home of Henry Rush when they moved to Mill Valley. This, however, is not in Mill Valley. We are in Sausalito, not far from some of the other locations from the opening of season 6. But yeah, there it is. The Rush family household, part 2, and the house looks almost exactly the same. Of course, now there's some trees blocking it, but other than that, that's the Rush household. And last but definitely not least, we get a shot from up here on the hill overlooking the city of Sausalito. The camera pans across the water, looking at all those sailboats down there, and then it finally ends up right here overlooking this neighborhood. And there's a couple of buildings here that can be seen in the show. The one that probably stands out the most is that tall building with the curved roof. All right, so there you have it. All the locations from the opening and closing credits from all 6 seasons of Too Close for Comfort. And that was fun. I really enjoyed looking for all those spots. I've been up here to the Bay Area so many times, and for some reason, I didn't think until recently to hunt down those spots. I've always loved Too Close for Comfort ever since I was a kid because I've always loved Ted Knight, so I enjoyed finding those spots. All right, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.